In a groundbreaking move that reshapes the electric vehicle landscape, General Motors CEO Mary Barra and Tesla CEO Elon Musk have forged an unprecedented partnership that will reverberate across the entire automotive industry. Unveiling their plans to integrate Tesla's renowned supercharging technology into GM's fleet, the two automotive giants are set to revolutionize the EV charging experience. With the announcement coming hot on the heels of Elon Musk and Ford CEO Jim Farley's recent collaboration, it's evident that Tesla's unwavering dominance in the North American electric car charging industry has reached an indisputable pinnacle and completely crushes the competing CCS charging standard. This strategic alliance may usher in a new era of cooperation, solidifying the immense potential of a united vision for sustainable transportation. And before we continue, stop using Yahoo Finance, stop using Google Finance, and have a look at our website, themarketisopen.com, where we have instant stock quotes and a brand new set of quarterly financial data going back up to 15 years on over 9,000 stocks, and it's all freely available. This past week, Elon Musk and Ford CEO Jim Farley revealed that Ford would be integrating its vehicles with the Tesla NACS charging standard. This is Tesla's supercharger connector, which they've open sourced for anyone in the industry to utilize. The Tesla connector has significant benefits over the predominant competing standard, CCS, as Tesla's connector is smaller, lighter, easier to maneuver, is more robust, and fault tolerant. Tesla has had nearly 100% uptime over the past at least 5 years. This compares to a quarter of charging stations running CCS, which were found last year in a California study to be non-functional, although this isn't an apples-to-apples comparison. That said, Tesla superchargers are all considered to be fast chargers, whereas only a fraction of the charging stations running with the CCS standard have a faster charging speed. And that's one of the reasons why Ford made the decision to switch to Tesla's standard, giving them access to 12,000 Tesla superchargers, more than doubling the number of fast chargers they previously had access to. Now, after this announcement, the big question was if General Motors would follow suit. It seemed like GM CEO Mary Barra was completely disconnected from the reality of EVs, as she's been praised by President Joe Biden that she's been leading the industry, when in fact General Motors has been lagging behind, and just recently planned to discontinue its best-selling Chevy Bolt EV. However, just 1 week after the Ford announcement, Elon Musk just met with Mary Barra on Twitter Spaces to announce a similar deal to the one Tesla unveiled with Ford. General Motors will be removing the integrated CCS connectors from its vehicles starting in 2025, and will instead build the Tesla-designed North American charging standard directly into their future vehicles. In the meantime, starting spring next year, GM customers will be getting Tesla adapters to be able to begin charging at Tesla supercharger stations. Now, it's unclear if there was something in the works between Elon Musk and General Motors before the Ford announcement, and if GM decided to hop aboard after hearing about the Tesla-Ford partnership. The timeline for GM making the switch is still a minimum of a year away, and Mary Barra didn't mention that GM customers would be able to charge their cars through the GM app, something that Ford's Jim Farley was adamant about. So if GM hasn't started working on this, it could take some time for them to integrate the feature into their app, or they can still opt to use Tesla's app for charging. However, the former being a more likely move for GM long term. Elon Musk has also confirmed that Tesla will be providing adapters and other hardware to car companies at zero profit. This doesn't mean that they're giving it away for free, or Tesla is losing money here, but instead they're selling it at cost to car companies. Clearly, this isn't an area where Tesla directly wants to make money, but it will benefit them greatly in other areas. First, it will increase the volume of connectors being produced by Tesla, which tends to lower costs for themselves as they reach economies of scale. Part of the cost of the connector is also the factory where Tesla builds them, so in a sense it's still helping to fund Tesla's operations. But the real important part is that it drastically speeds up the rate in which GM and Ford and any other EV customers come aboard and start using Tesla's network. The sooner the better, as Tesla makes money off the charging itself. And have a look at my last video where I highlighted the benefits of growing the supercharger network with partnerships like Ford's and now GM's. Now, General Motors CEO Mary Barra was asked in a CNBC interview shortly after the announcement how GM will be sharing the revenue or the cost with Tesla. Barra replied, outlining the benefits to her own company, saying that GM will save up to $400 million of its original $750 million that they had previously allocated for this type of initiative, making them more capital efficient. They're able to essentially roll out chargers faster and more effectively with the help of Tesla versus building it themselves with other companies. Interestingly, there's still a $350 million gap here in their calculation that's left unaccounted for. If General Motors is going to be using Tesla's stations, they really don't need to do much additional work. Even if they purchase adapters from Tesla and gave them for free to customers, at roughly $175 a piece, the price which Tesla sells the CCS to NACS adapter for on their website, current GM vehicles, of course, would need the adapter in the opposite direction, but it's likely around the same price. $350 million would get GM 2 million adapters, likely 10 times more than they need to cover their entire existing North American fleet, and their EV production rate over the next few years will likely be a few 100,000 at absolute best, given the halt in Bolt EV production. And so part of this money allocated to charging, this $350 million, could potentially be part of the deal with Tesla, maybe not simply given directly to Tesla, but instead to continue investing and bolstering their infrastructure over time. Tesla is likely ecstatic that all of GM's current and future cars will be joining the Tesla network, something that hasn't been possible until essentially right now. While Mary Barra avoided answering the question about sharing revenue and costs with Tesla, both companies will win, in a sense that GM doesn't need to build its own charging infrastructure or rely on flaky CCS chargers, and in exchange, Tesla will charge consumers for the power they use at the station. Elon Musk reiterated that he's giving his full support on this, whether someone is driving a car from GM or from Tesla, and he's promised that Tesla won't do anything to tip the playing field in the future. Now, this sort of goes against what was previously said when Tesla first opened up its supercharger stations to third-party customers, which was that they would be paying more than Tesla owners, and subscriptions would be available to reduce the cost, which would still be more than what Tesla owners pay. After all, Tesla owners have previously purchased the Tesla product, which in turn, part of that money has been responsible for growing the charging network to where it is today. So it makes sense for third parties to pay a bit more at the supercharger, and that said, Elon Musk's comments didn't explicitly put that out of the question. One other thing to keep in mind is that adding more users could ultimately benefit Tesla owners by boosting investment in charging stations and even lowering prices, as we've seen Tesla do in the past. Now, for one thing, this seems like the final nail in the coffin for the CCS charging standard in North America, something that Elon Musk can't wait to get rid of. Even Mary Barra says that she really wants to drive the Tesla NACS standard to be the standard across North America, which she believes will further drive mass adoption of EVs. This is bad news for anyone not on board. Now you have the largest US automakers unified on this standard. GM is still the largest vehicle producer in the United States. Even though they don't have much of a share yet in EVs, they may in the future, and they certainly drive a lot of mind share. If they're going to be advertising about their charging network, they're going to have to be including Tesla's chargers in that conversation. There are still many car companies like Volkswagen or Toyota which operate in North America that have yet to make such an announcement, where they could potentially be building the NACS standard directly into their vehicles. By not doing so, they'll be stuck with an inferior technology. This really isn't like VHS versus Betamax, where VHS won out even though Betamax was a better technology in many areas. Customers are legitimately frustrated with faulty connectors and slow speeds at third-party charging stations, and this could come at a critical time for traveling consumers. So the CCS standard, which displays itself at these third-party stations, quickly seems to be getting phased out. Now, Volkswagen in particular may have the biggest problem. As part of their punishment for the Dieselgate standard of lying about and manipulating emissions tests over half a decade ago, the company was forced to invest billions of dollars into sustainable energy programs in the United States. Now, this wasn't really a punishment at all, since in hindsight, it actually helped VW get ahead in electric charging as they built the Electrify America charging network, which they own. However, the punishment may be coming full circle. Because the CCS standard is one of the predominant standards in Europe, and VW is a European company, they've invested heavily in CCS all over the United States. Of course, it is a standard in the United States as well. But Tesla just killed the CCS standard by partnering with Ford and GM, who will essentially be joining Tesla in accelerating the build-out of Tesla's supercharger network and their connector, displacing CCS. All of the investment will go towards Tesla's chargers and their standard, as GM and Ford customers pay Tesla and the money gets reinvested into the company. This takes away the largest US automakers' customers from Volkswagen and other CCS-based chargers. Now, this may not be saying much since the VW network isn't that great to begin with, but now Ford and GM customers will be leaning towards the faster and better situated Tesla stations, meaning other networks will drastically lose business in favor of Tesla, stifling further investment in CCS-based charging networks. VW is stuck with this big investment in a charging station that's quickly becoming obsolete. And if they decide to follow in the footsteps of Ford and GM by partnering with Tesla, it will confirm that the current slow and defective chargers are of little value. It's not to say that they won't be available for charging, but that the network will be further eclipsed by superchargers as future investments see an accelerated shift towards Tesla. Now, the European Union is a different problem altogether, as Elon Musk stated that the Tesla NACS connector is better in every way than CCS, but in Europe there was a committee that decided on the CCS standard. So the EU will be stuck with crappy charging, except for Tesla owners and those who use the open Tesla network. Now, it is interesting that as part of the deal with both Ford and GM, they're putting the Tesla connector right into the vehicle. This may be a key part of the deal with Tesla, because if Tesla can go one by one with a handful of the major car companies that exist around the world, and get them to use the NACS standard on every vehicle produced, then they can effectively set the new standard themselves, even in other countries where Ford and GM vehicles are sold and anyone else who Tesla onboards. Tesla's network currently has a massive presence in Europe and in China and many other countries. Whether the committees agree or not, Tesla could still overthrow the CCS standard by essentially forcing everyone to use NACS in exchange for certain benefits around using Tesla chargers. So Elon Musk may still have a plan really to make EV consumer lives better, since he says the Tesla design is indeed better in every way, and this becomes even more important as Tesla moves to V4 chargers with a 1000 volt architecture, a sort of unique voltage which really only Tesla will be supporting for now. Other automakers don't use this voltage, and so if it brings benefits to future vehicles such as faster charging capabilities, and only Tesla builds a 1000 volt capable infrastructure, then if any car company wants to build a car that uses 1000 volts in the future, they once again will have to be using the Tesla network. So essentially, due to Tesla's fast pace of innovation, they'll stay ahead in charging as they advance the technology and do what's right for Tesla owners, while the rest of the industry is run by a committee that's using old technology. So when the time comes to upgrade, no one has invested in a 1000 volt architecture except Tesla, bringing another round of charging standard battles. But right now, this is huge news for Tesla, as they now have the potential to absorb all of GM's current and future customers, as well as Ford's, onto their supercharging network. If Mary Barra has ever led anything, this is the time, as using Tesla's network will also greatly benefit General Motors customers well into the future. So do you think other large car companies such as Volkswagen or Toyota will join Tesla in the United States? And is there a chance that the Tesla NACS connector can eventually overthrow CCS in Europe? Don't forget to watch my last two videos on Tesla bolstering their charging network with these unexpected announcements. Please hit the like button and subscribe, we would really appreciate that. And a huge shout out to all of our patrons that help to support our channel. Your support helps us to continue to make great content. Thank you guys so much for watching.